Rome.
The year is 390 BC. Gauls just sacked the city, burning it down. Rome, just a bunch of villages, was in ruins. Most cities would be done, but Rome rebuilt itself into the biggest city on earth. Over 1 million people, 10-story marble temples, aqueducts carrying water. I used modern AI to rebuild ancient Rome at its peak, based on historical records and archaeology. We'll zoom in on specific buildings and get a feel for being there. 70 million people, 3 continents, 1 empire, all ruled from here. The Roman Forum. The heart of the most powerful empire ever. The Forum had dozens of temples and monuments. But some of Rome's most crucial moments happened here. This is the Curia, the Senate House where 600 senators debated laws. The building still stands today, one of the best preserved in the Forum. Here in the plaza, the rostra, the speaker's platform, where Mark Antony gave his famous funeral speech for Julius Caesar. We don't have his exact words, but ancient sources say he held up Caesar's blood-stained toga and read his will, revealing Caesar left money and gardens to every citizen. The speech was so moving, crowds cremated Caesar's body right here. On that spot, Romans built the temple of Julius Caesar, making him the first Roman ever declared a god. But maybe the most sacred spot in the whole Forum was this small, round temple, the Temple of Vesta. Inside, a flame burned non-stop for over 1,000 years, tended by Vestal virgins. Romans believed if the flame died, the empire would too. These women served 30 years and had to stay virgins. Breaking that vow meant being buried alive. But they had privileges no other Roman women did. They could own property, free prisoners, and were very powerful. Until Christianity ended the tradition in 394 AD. The Senate, the sacred flame, the speaker's platform. And we've barely seen anything. This plaza was the heart of the most powerful empire. But emperors lived just above on Palatine Hill. This is Palatine Hill. Emperors turned this whole hill into their palace. The Domus Augusti, the home of Rome's first emperor, Augustus. Compared to later ones, it was pretty simple. But this is where the emperor's tradition began. Centuries later, Emperor Domitian thought bigger. He built the Domus Flavia, a huge ceremonial palace for banquets, receiving kings in throne rooms with 30-meter ceilings, and showing Rome's wealth to important guests. Right next door was the Domus Augustana, his private home. This is where the emperor and his family lived, with bedrooms, private baths, gardens, and courtyards guests never saw. So Domitian had 2 palaces side by side. One for show, one for living. And then there was this. His private stadium with seating for the imperial family and friends. The emperor could watch races and gladiator fights from home. The Circus Maximus, seating 150,000, was literally down the hill. But apparently that wasn't enough. He needed his own. While Domitian watched races at home, the real action was below. The Circus Maximus, the biggest stadium in the ancient world. Over 150,000 Romans packed in for chariot races, the most dangerous sport. Drivers raced up to 75 kilometers per hour, crashing violently, called shipwrecks. Charioteers tied reins to their waists. A crash meant being dragged to death. But survivors became rich. One famous driver earned enough to feed Rome for a year. And the fans? Just as intense. Romans were split into 4 teams. Blues, greens, reds, and whites. Their loyalty was so extreme, riots broke out, killing thousands. This wasn't just entertainment. It was obsession. But Rome's most famous surviving venue was the Colosseum. Smaller, just 50,000 seats, but it survived nearly 2,000 years. And the violence inside was far worse. Violence was the point here, not an accident. Over 300 years, an estimated 400,000 people died. Gladiators, criminals, prisoners, slaves. Hundreds of thousands of animals were killed. Lions from Africa, bears from Germany, elephants from Egypt hunted to near extinction. For Roman entertainment, a typical day, executions at dawn, animal hunts at midday, then gladiators in the afternoon. What made it possible was hidden. Beneath the arena floor, a two-story labyrinth, where slaves operated 28 elevators to send animals, and fighters up through trapdoors. From the crowd's view, a lion just appeared. Like magic. Romans never saw the machinery, only the show. During the 100-day opening games, 5,000 animals were killed. This happened for centuries. So that was Roman entertainment. Blood, speed, and spectacle the world had never seen. When they weren't watching people die, Romans were very religious, building amazing temples. Most temples honored one god, but the Pantheon was different. Some details in this reconstruction are educated guesses. The bronze fittings and decoration were stripped away long ago. They were stripped away long ago. This temple was built for all gods at once, which is what Pantheon means, all gods. Emperor Hadrian covered all his bases. The Pantheon is the best preserved ancient Roman building from antiquity. And for good reason, it's an engineering marvel. The concrete dome spans 43 meters, with no internal supports. Just a single opening at the top, the oculus. Today, you can walk inside and stand under the same dome Romans stood under 1,900 years ago. This design has influenced architecture for 2,000 years, from Florence's dome to the U.S. Capitol. It became a church in 609 AD, saving it from destruction or being stripped for materials like most Roman temples. The Pantheon was impressive, but not Rome's most sacred building. That honor went to the Temple of Jupiter, king of the gods, perched on Capitoline Hill, one of Rome's 7 hills above the Forum. Built in 509 BC, Jupiter's temple was one of Rome's oldest and largest. It honored Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, the 3 most important gods. This is where triumphal processions ended. After conquering new territory, generals would climb Capitoline Hill with prisoners and treasure to sacrifice to Jupiter. For over 800 years, this temple was the empire's spiritual heart, visible across the city. But unlike the Pantheon, it didn't survive. Fires destroyed it multiple times, and today almost nothing remains. Temples and gods gave Rome spiritual power, but the empire was built on military might, breaking centuries of Roman tradition that forbade troops inside the city. Emperors stationed the Praetorian Guard at the castra. Praetoria, turning their bodyguards into their biggest threat. The Praetorian Guard was Rome's most elite military unit. Around 10,000 soldiers at their peak, serving as the emperor's personal bodyguards, paid 3 times more than regular troops. Unlike other Roman legions stationed at the empire's borders, the Praetorians lived right here in Rome at the Castra Praetoria, a massive military fortress built just outside the city. In 23 AD, this was highly unusual. Roman law traditionally forbade armies inside the city, but emperors needed protection, and the Praetorian Guard provided it. Light for the light. Well, sometimes. They also assassinated at least 13 emperors, overthrew dynasties, and once sold the imperial throne at auction. The Castra Praetoria had thick, fortified walls, not to defend against foreign enemies, but to house Rome's most politically dangerous force. But how could you spot a Praetorian in a crowd? The Praetorian you see wears ceremonial armor for palace guard duty. That red horsehair crest across the helmet, side to side rather than front to back. Like regular soldiers, marked him as elite guard. The silver scale armor and shoulder plates show superior craftsmanship, and the red oval shield with the scorpions, stars, and moons. That was the Praetorian symbol, while the ceremonial spear and decorated bronze belt with its ornate sword scabbard, all marked him as part of the emperor's personal protection. But in reality, their appearance varied greatly. On campaign, standard legionary gear. Patrolling Rome, often civilian dress. At state functions, this ornate version. Context was everything. But while emperors worried about their bodyguards, ordinary Romans relied on something far more vital. The aqueducts, like the massive Aqua Claudia, one of Rome's 11 major aqueducts. It stretched 69 kilometers from Mountain Springs in the Ennio Valley to Rome. And this is what it looked like entering the city. Stone arches rising 27 meters high, about 9 stories, carrying water on top in a stone channel. Romans walking beneath these arches every day could look up at one of the ancient world's greatest engineering feats, casually delivering fresh water overhead. Engineering efficiency at its finest. The Aqua Claudia alone supplied fresh water to hundreds of thousands in Rome daily, all powered by gravity and precise engineering. Impressive. And remarkably, sections still stand today, nearly 2,000 years later. But Rome was more than its monuments. It was a living, breathing city of over 1 million people. So where did they actually live? Picture this. You're a regular Roman, maybe a shopkeeper or craftsman. You wake up in an insula, a multi-apartment building packed with families like yours. About 90% of Romans lived in these buildings. They stood 5 or 6 stories high, built cheaply with wood and brick. And families shared single rooms in cramped, noisy conditions. The higher up you lived, the cheaper the rent. But no running water, no kitchen, and if a fire broke out, you'd climb down narrow stairs in a burning building. Collapses happened so often that emperors passed laws limiting building height. Every morning, you'd leave your cramped apartment and head to a place like Trajan's Market to start your day. Built into a hillside, this massive complex had over 150 shops and offices across multiple levels. Walk the ground floor and you'd find small shops, taberni, selling everything. Imported spices from the east, fresh fish from the coast. Wine, olive oil, fabrics, pottery. Head upstairs for larger warehouses and administrative offices where the empire's business happened. Romans worked here, traded here, made deals here. The economy of an empire humming in one massive building. After a long day, there was one place every Roman wanted to go. The public baths. The baths of Trajan covered over 11 hectares and could hold thousands. Bathing in Rome meant spending hours there. You'd exercise, swim, sweat in hot rooms, then shock yourself with a cold plunge. You'd meet friends, gossip, conduct business, maybe grab a meal. Entry cost almost nothing, just a small coin. So everyone came. Slaves, merchants, senators. All those aqueducts we saw earlier. The water ended up here, heating complexes, filling pools, giving ordinary Romans a quality of life unmatched in Europe for over 1,000 years. 1 million people, one city. Rome was the first to do it, and to make it work, they invented the modern city. They built insulae 5- and 6-story apartment buildings, housing 90% of people, the first tall buildings. They built Aqua Claudia, 69 kilometers of arches, bringing fresh mountain water, 190,000 cubic meters daily. They built Trajan's Market, 150 shops on levels. Ancient Rome's shopping center. They built the Colosseum and Circus Maximus stadiums holding over 200,000 people combined. They built baths of Trajan, 11 hectares where everyone From slaves to senators bathed, and they built it to last. The Pantheon's concrete dome, 1,900 years old, is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome built. Rome didn't just build a city. They answered an unsolvable question. How do you get 1 million people in a city to function? 2,000 years later, New York, London, Tokyo, Shanghai, apartments, same idea as Insuli. Sports stadiums, Colosseum concept, just bigger. Public spaces, Roman forums and baths, just updated. Concrete still based on their chemistry, we've improved the tech. But the base, that's still Rome. Rome did it first. We've been following their plan since. Thanks for watching. What next?